everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. We are going to pick up where we left off 2 weeks ago with the Elsa vlogs. If you haven't seen the first part of the Elsa vlogs yet, make sure to click this video or down in the description and watch that as well. You might want to watch it first since they do go in chronological order. Anyway, there's a lot more of this project left to go, so please enjoy this video. Hello everyone! I did not want to set up my lighting for this, so you'll have to bear with me on the darkness in here, but I just wanted to pop in with you and show you that I have the dress on again. I have all of my hooks and eyes done on the back. The one thing that I have noticed is that I put a bone in the very center back, and as you can see, it's way too tall at the top, so I need to remove about 4 inches of that bone at the top so that it won't hang away from my body. Then the next step at this point is to cut and sew together the neckline piece out of the mesh and the organza, and to cut this down, which I'm so scared about. I've decided that I am going to sew kind of stay stitch where I want the points to go on here, and then kind of just see how that looks mentally in my mind. And if I hate that, if for some reason there's the possibility, I don't want to say that I'm just going to fall back on this, but there's the possibility that I might decide to just leave the shape as is and just do the points, like outline them with rhinestones. So I don't want to cheat like that, but I'm also terrified of cutting this down. So because if I screw it up, I screw up the entire dress. So there is the possibility that that will happen, but I'm going to stitch it first and just see what I think, and yeah, I'll go from there. So anyway, I will check back in with you sometime later. I will intersperse a little quick shot of what this is looking like with me walking around right now, though, I think, because I like it. Back so soon. So the wonderful Miss Philomena, I will link her channel somewhere, she suggested that I should A, baste the shapes in, and then B, use my mesh that I'm using for the neckline and actually fill the points in with the mesh so that I get a better idea of what it would look like. And we all came to the conclusion, we've been doing this like costuber chat thing every week, which is so fantastic because all of the other costumers out there are also amazing. And so Kira Lee Cosplay, Alicia Estelle, and Miss Philomena were all on this chat with me just now, and they kind of helped me see everything, fit everything out with the neckline, and I kind of came to the conclusion with their help that I should actually just applique this over the top with the mesh. So what I'm going to do is, I haven't quite decided if I'm going to do 2 layers of mesh all the way up with the organza, which might help cover the chemise as well, or if I'm going to just do 1 layer of mesh like this with the cutout, and then another layer on top of that that's going to be the whole from the points all the way up to the collar, and then the organza on top of that. So basically it would kind of be this sort of thing going on, because it blends pretty well. Oh, well, there we go. It blends pretty well in with my skin and my neckline and everything, and I think it really gives the illusion of the points without having me cut it down. I also tapered this down a little bit so that the points would be a little bit lower than I had initially anticipated on the sides to give that curved look like in Gebruerstein's artwork. So I'm really liking the look of that so much better now. So I'm going to actually sew my little darts in, and then I'm going to start on all of my appliquing with the neckline and everything, and I'm just feeling in a much safer and better and like calmer place having figured that out. So I am excited to get started, but you know what? It's late tonight, so don't think any of that's going to happen tonight. I've been messing with all of this in some way or another, the hooks and eyes and everything, for basically the last 7 hours. So, because I'm the world's slowest hand sewer, and it took me that long to sew on a bunch of hooks and eyes and make a boning channel and figure this bit out. So anyway, I will check back in with you probably once I've got more of the collar finished, because, yeah. Oh, also, I cut down that bone, and it fits so much better in the back now, so that's exciting. But that's where it looks like right now. I'll check back in with you soon. Hello again. So today has been a bit of trial and a whole lot of error. I don't even remember the last bit that I recorded for you, but I think it had to do with the fact that I was going to cut the neckline out of the mesh and the organza and assemble that all together and try it out with the collar. And so that didn't work. It looked really, really bad. Collar fit wrong, and it was like it fit weirdly, but also it just looked bad. However, this whole time I've kind of been thinking that this neckline up here, that it looks soft, like it's got something ruched in there. And originally my thought was, oh, I'm making all the sheer part out of organza, so I can't do that ruching because organza just doesn't ruche that way. So I just kind of dismissed the idea and I was going to do it flat. So cut to today when I tried it on flat and it looked bad. I would even show you what it looked like right now, but I already picked it up. But basically it was this together. So this one's even slightly different because this has some organza on the backing, but this is the nude mesh and then organza on the top. And so this color right up here, right next to my face where it looks really, really, really ugly. How about that? That gorgeously ugly high color that just looks so bad. And it just was not the softness that I wanted for this ethereal whatever. So then I got the harebrained idea that, oh, maybe I still have some of my netting left, which I've used in previous videos. I forget the last thing that I used it on. It might have been the bustle hat, I think. So it was a while ago. But this is originally from my giant turquoise ball gown that I made in 2017. And I still have a little bit of this left, as you can see. I'm hoping it'll be enough. I really don't know. But I got the idea that, oh, if I grab this net out, or this mesh out, then I can maybe do that ruche thing, which is what I kind of thought in the first place was what was going on. So I crinkled it all up in my hands, choked myself until I could tie just a piece of scrap from my Edwardian blouse in place to kind of hold it there so that I could release my hand and mess with the gathers. I have now kind of ruched it evenly to what I want. In fact, I should probably pin this part in place. But what I've done is I have pinned all of this in place. I did the long side of the fabric as the shoulder, basically. So this is a straight edge right here, but it seems to be working, so fingers crossed. We'll have to see once I actually go to sew this. But now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where this goes, the edges where it goes, and I'm just going to baste the crap out of this so that everything stays where it is. I still have underneath, the mesh and organza layers underneath. So this is 2 layers of nude mesh for the points, plus then there's a layer of nude mesh everywhere, a layer of the silk organza everywhere. But it just wasn't showing as white enough. It was looking really nude-ish and ugly on me and just not right. So yeah, I think I'm gonna draw lines kind of where everything goes. It's pinned in place, but if I draw lines, that might help me baste it a little bit, and then I can baste it all in place. Yeah, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to figure out how to finish the edges. I was originally thinking I was gonna do a hand satin stitch around the edges of the points, so I'm kind of still thinking that that's gonna be the best option, is to do a hand satin stitch. It's probably gonna be a little harder now that it's not flat, now that I've got some of the gathering in there, but I just don't think I can take this off the bodice, and I don't think I can run this through the machine without kind of losing everything. In fact, I'm actually really tempted right now to baste this collar in place on this piece of fabric while I'm wearing it. That sounds like I would stab myself in the neck repeatedly, so I might not do that. But I'm going to have to figure out how to get this to stay in place. And then I'm going to draw those lines here, and then hopefully this is all enough to do the same in the back, and that obviously I can't drape on myself, so I'm going to have to just like figure out how to do that otherwise. But I think I'm pretty happy with how it looks. It's pretty nice and ethereal, and I think it's kind of doing what I want. So still am not entirely happy with these points. I just feel like they maybe should have gone deeper. Ugh. Why is this so hard? Seriously, I don't know. This dress is just like messing with my head. I just don't know. But this is where we are right now. So who knows what it will look like next and when, because this is just like dragging forever because my brain can't wrap itself around this dress. And I don't know. I guess I've just never done anything quite like this before. But it's not a good excuse. I'll figure it out. So I will check in with you once I have figured more out. But this is where we are. This lovely shroud. Here I'm sewing down a base layer of the nude mesh directly onto the bodice. This is a different layer of mesh than is part of the neckline, which you will see later. This is just a base layer to extend those points further into the bodice and make it a little bit of a darker color. I'm using a fairly large running stitch on this since it will be covered later. So it's been a little while, but I think I have solved everything with this, hopefully. So I had a nice long talk with my mom a few days ago, and what we kind of came up with was to put the points back over the bodice, but make these bottom points, or like the underside points basically, make them longer so that they were in the right pointy shape like I was liking with the ribbon. So I don't remember the last time that I talked to you guys here, but this is what's happening right now. So I have these long points in just one layer of the nude mesh, and that's all basted down in place right now. And then over that I have the short points that are made of the mesh and the organza as part of the whole collar. And then I have the floofy netting over the top of it, which is like a really soft netting that's all gathered, and that's over the top. And all three of those layers are basted together right now, and they are pinned in place. Now, the one thing that I'm really not sure about is I'm waiting for some 3/8 inch white ribbon. This is off-white, but I'm waiting for some white ribbon to come in the mail. It should be here in a couple days. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline each point. Now, the only thing that makes me unsure about this is I'm not really sure how to baste down these upper points so that they're not shown, or how to sew down really these upper points so that they're not shown, but so that they're still secure, because in some places the ribbon is not actually wide enough to bridge that gap between the really narrow longer points and the shorter points. There's, like in this case right here, there's about a 1/2 inch difference between the two layers, which isn't easy to see until you get really close to it. But and in fact this one's even worse. There's literally, I think, about 1 inch between the point down here and the point right here. It's a pretty big gap. So I'm not exactly sure how to do that. I don't know. I do have clear thread, but I've never really used it for sewing, and I don't know if it'll really work. I might try to go into Joann's and see if there's like a nude thread that I can match really, really well, but I feel like that's still going to show up as heavier than the mesh, especially because I've got the organza and the mesh on there, the white mesh. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but I think I'm going to kind of base it in place to begin with and then play around with once the ribbon gets here. This collar is actually just 2 layers of silk organza cut on the straight of grain in the front, And then on the inside, it has one layer of silk organza, and in between I've sandwiched just like the top of all of this gathering. So it all just comes up and makes a nice soft little floof all the way around. And the back is quite similar. That is all basted in place right now. So I've got to stitch that down for real. So much hand basting. I don't usually baste things, and this is like requiring me to baste everything. So it's kind of weird, but I guess this is how people actually sew. So I suppose that's reasonable. So anyway, I'm going to figure out these points, but I'm glad that I have this kind of all sorted. On the downside, I may have another delay before sleeves because I ordered silk organza from Dharma Trading a while ago. It did arrive, but I've always ordered the 45-inch silk organza before, and I ordered the 55-inch because I thought originally I was going to use it for all of the skirt pieces until it was taking too long. So anyway, I used all the 45 for the skirt pieces, which means now I'm out of organza again. I have less than a yard. And so I was going to cut into the 55-inch organza to make the sleeves. Except I opened up my package yesterday and the 55-inch organza is practically chiffon. Like it has no body whatsoever, which is really, really disappointing. So right now I'm waiting to hear back from Dharma Trading. I contacted them on Saturday. It's Monday now, have not heard anything because they need to make this right, and they need to make this right a lot sooner than like 3 weeks from now because I really don't want to wait 3 weeks to do these sleeves. I mean, I guess I can because I could always start on rhinestoning before I do the sleeves, but I'd really like to do the sleeves because then the general look will be done basically, practically, and I'll just have to do all of the rhinestones, and I really had wanted to do them last. So we shall see. My fingers are crossed, and hopefully I will be able to proceed with everything a lot sooner than 3 weeks, because, yeah, that's long. Okay, see you next time. This is what the points were looking like in the middle of me sewing them down. So here you're seeing on the right-hand side points that are fully stitched down, and on the left-hand side points that are still held in place with pins. And now we move to what it looks like once the velvet ribbon has been added. So everything now has been stitched down, and the velvet ribbon has been stitched over the top to cover the joins between the mesh type fabrics and the silk of the bodice. This is what the bodice currently looks like. So we have the multiple layers that are sewn on under here. You can see kind of where one edge ends and you just see the underneath, but I think that once everything's in here, that's not going to be very obvious. It's already not very obvious if you're more than like 2 feet away. And these are the points that I'm adding on because I forgot to put my points on to begin with yesterday. And then this is what the diamonds are going to be like. So they're going to sit, that one's a little bit low. They're going to sit about there-ish. And then below, right down here, there's going to be 4 turquoise rhinestones that make up a tiny diamond shape. And then again, this is going to be covered with either clear rhinestones, or I've got some that are kind of clear to purple, depending on how the light catches. So that might be the other option. But otherwise, the neckline is done. I've done the finishings in the back, all of the hooks and eyes. So other than those points and diamonds and the little rhinestones and everything, the neckline is totally complete. Quick check-in for today. As you can see, my neckline is officially finished. And by neckline, I mean like from the points up. I have added my little tips on the velvet ribbon, so now they're giving me the right lines. And I also started my rhinestones. Look how sparkly she is. I'm super, super excited. May or may not have probably burnt my thumb, but it's worth it. And I'm going to try and figure out if I can wear a heat glove for doing the rest, because of course this is the very, very tip of what looks kind of like an iceberg of rhinestones. There are going to be so many more rhinestones on this dress, but I am super excited about the very beginnings here. I probably have just, or will just, intersperse a little time lapse of me doing these rhinestones. Honestly, it was very, very easy. I had a great tip to use a griddle as my base for the rhinestones instead of using my heat fix tool. So I laid about 20 or so rhinestones out on the griddle at a time and then picked them up with a pin, flipped them around, and just pushed them into place with my thumb, which is why I've probably marked my thumb. But I really like how they're looking. I think she's nice and sparkly. She does kind of look like a figure skater, but I'm not upset about it. My organza got here, so next up I can do my sleeves. And I'm excited because once I do the sleeves, I do have to put the boning in the bodice, but otherwise it's just rhinestones all the way. I will make the little cape that will attach to the back too, but the cape is basically like one piece of fabric that is covered in rhinestones. So I have a lot of rhinestoning in my future, but I'm not sad about it. The only thing about the griddle is that it gets really hot in here, hence the shiny. So there's that. I'm going to have to see how this will go as the summer progresses, but it was a lot easier and faster than using the heat fix tool. So I think I want to stick with that. And I like how it's coming along. I'm super excited. This is the first time I've ever done rhinestones, people. And yes, I will do a full detailed tutorial just on how to do rhinestones. Hello everyone. I figured I might as well talk for a few minutes and test out my new camera. I got the Sony ZV-1 and apparently I've forgotten how to talk. And I'm going to test out my new camera and show you a little bit about how I draft sleeves. So I'm working on my Elsa dress right now, which is this lovely sparkly beauty. And I have to draft her sleeves. So earlier today I did work a little bit about the puff sleeve portion of this dress, which is currently a double layer organza sleeve. I have found that it's not giving me really the body that I want, so I'm going to be incorporating some stiff net, like tulle type net in there somehow. I'm not positive yet how, but it will also be affixed to a base sleeve. So that is now what I'm drafting out. I have, if you've been on this channel at all when I've talked about the Victorian costumes that I've made, I have kind of this go-to bodice pattern that I created in a class like 4 years ago, and one of the pieces of the pattern is of course of the sleeve. So I did recently use this sleeve pattern. It's the sleeve pattern that I used for my burgundy stripe dress with all the velvet ribbon that I made in February, finished in February. So that's the last time I think I used the sleeve pattern, because I never did wind up making the Daniel Deronda or the evening bodice, which would have a different sleeve anyway, but I never did wind up making those yet. They're on my list. But I am using that sleeve pattern for this, so let me show you what that looks like. This is the sleeve pattern that I'm working with. So it is a two-piece sleeve pattern, as you can see here, but I don't want a two-piece sleeve for this. The undersleeve is going to be made out of nude mesh, so it's the same sort of stuff that went underneath the neckline area. And I just want to have as few seams as possible on this, for one, but also I don't love the nude mesh. Like, I don't love working with it, so I don't want to do more than I have to. So I want this to be a one-piece fitted or really close to fitted at the shoulder sleeve and fitted through the arm, and the sleeve itself will stop just below the fitted portion of the sleeve, will stop just below the elbow. So I have this marked out from a previous draft for a 3/4 sleeve, and I'm not exactly sure which sleeve this line went to, but it does seem to be at a 3/4 sleeve mark and seems to be where I want it. So what I'm trying to do here, ideally without a mock-up, but that's probably stupid, so I guess I have to mock it up, is I'm trying to draft this sleeve into a one-piece sleeve. Now I swear I've done this before, but I don't remember when or with what, or if I saved that pattern, and I don't feel like digging through everything right now. So I'm just reinventing the wheel because, again, story of my life. I'm really good at reinventing the wheel, apparently. So anyway, I'm going to try to draft out this dart, basically. I don't know. I shouldn't be doing this right now because I'm not thinking clearly, but the rest of the pattern, I've already pinned it together where I think it needs to go. This, I believe, had a 1-inch ease in it, and I've made some markings, as you can tell, on this pattern that I've used in the past where I know that it has to be actually a little bit larger than what this originally was. So the next step of this is to make sure that my armscye on this dress is the same size armscye as what I would normally use, because bodices all differ, especially this one is so weird with all of the mesh and everything. It's a very different armscye. So I'm not sure of the dimensions of the armscye. I have to measure it and figure out what it is, because I need to make sure that the slope and curve of the top of the sleeve is within about 1 inch of the armscye. It needs to be at least as large as the armscye, of course, but it can be about 1 inch larger of that ease. I don't really want to go with too much more ease than that, or I'm going to start getting gathers. And I really, even though no one's going to see it, I really want a more fitted sleeve for this because it does need to support the poof of the sleeve. I will be adding, as I mentioned, net in between the fitted sleeve and the poof, but I don't think I'm going to just flatline with the net because I don't think that would work. I know I'm going to add at least a tier, actually maybe even of the in organdy instead of net. I haven't decided yet, but it's going to be a ruffled tier that's right at the very top, and that is going to go inside and help to poof up the shoulder. But Cynthia from Red Threaded had a wonderful idea that she shared with me, which was to do a second one lower down out of the net. Because it's 2 layers of organza, it's not super sheer, so it is still a little sheer, but so it shouldn't show to have like another organza ruffle that will help to keep out the sleeve a little bit more instead of it like concaving down into my arm. I'm going to make up the fitted sleeve pattern, and then the other part of this is that there will be a lower sleeve, which I've already kind of mocked this up in paper. This is from Butterick B6537, which is that one that looks really hideous on the outside. In my opinion, it's this lovely lady. So not great. Ooh, a nice autofocus there. Not great pattern in general, but I do think the sleeve is a decent place to start. And actually the puff of the sleeve is fairly close. I started with the puff of that sleeve pattern as well, but I did make it longer, and I also had it curve out in the bottom, so the outside of the sleeve would have a little bit more length to puff than the inside of the sleeve. Yeah, I have a lot of work to do. This is going to be a really multi-part sleeve. I was really hoping to maybe finish it today. It's so not going to happen because it's already like, I don't even know what time it is. 7:30 or something, probably 7:56. So it's not going to happen today, but I want to get far-ish on there. So I have a lot of work ahead of me. So I just measured the sleeve. The sleeve head on the actual dress is coming up at 20¼ inches. The sleeve head, as in on the sleeve, is coming up at 22 inches. So it is a little bit larger than I would like it to be. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut that mock-up and then decide what it looks like. It's going to be a little bit weird to mock it up because I don't have other mesh that I can mock it up in. So I'm going to have to mock it up in a regular non-stretch, non-meshy type fabric. So hopefully it will work, but I figure I'm just going to mock it up in some muslin, I think. I'm going to make it into a one-piece mock-up and try that out and see how it works. Well, I honestly don't know what I was thinking before because this mock-up does not seem to fit right at all. I think that I am going to try to find a pattern that is already a one-piece sleeve, maybe one that I've used before. Hopefully I should have them stashed away somewhere. And barring that, I'm done for the night because my brain's not functioning today. So I guess I'll have to do sleeves later. Why can't I just do a gathered sleeve without a fitted sleeve inside? Fitted sleeves suck. That's all. Okay, I know I'm going back and forth between cameras here. I'm back on my cell phone for this one. But we have a sleeve mock-up. Ta-da! This is just the upper sleeve. I have not yet mocked up the lower sleeve, but I'm going to actually fully assemble the upper sleeve other than setting it in before I start on the lower sleeve, just because I want this to be like finished. So a couple things to note. I started with the sleeve from that pink pattern that I showed you, and that one is like even as far as like at the bottom it's flat. This I've been kind of cutting away at the shape of the bottom to make it curved. I have more to go. This is too long in the underarm, so it's giving me a lot of volume right here, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna take away, I think I'm just gonna take away 1 inch more. I don't know, it's annoying because every time I do that I have to regather the sleeve. Last time I took away 1.25 inches both at the underarm and at the lower part of the arm, the elbow. So that was annoying because I just have to gather a lot. The other thing that I've done here is that I've actually just flatlined it with the nylon net, and I think that that's giving me the body that I want, because I do want kind of a soft look, and I feel like that's what I'm getting now. I don't even think I'm going to add the nylon gathered at the shoulder. I was originally going to do that, but I don't think that's the look that I'm going for. I mean, if I was doing pure 1890s, that's what I would do, but this is like fantasy 1890s bordering on Edwardian, and I just want that drapey. I almost still wonder if this is too full, but I think I'm going to keep it as is fullness wise. But yeah, I'm liking the flat line with the net and the cutting away of the seam, the length of the seam. So I'm going to do that a little bit more, and obviously I've got to do the other sleeve too. The other thing is that the mock-up that I first did yesterday that I thought totally didn't work actually did work. It's a little bit short, so I've got to add about 2 inches of length to the length of the sleeve. And the seam is also in the wrong place, which I'm trying to decide if that bothers me. I don't actually think it does. I was thinking about like cutting it where it should be in the underarm and just putting in the seam there, which I might still do because it's weird. The seam is like on the back of my arm right now, but there's this big old bell sleeve or puff sleeve over, so you can't tell that the sleeve is in the wrong place. The other thing that I'm still waffling about is whether I want to do the underlayer of mesh or of, now I'm thinking just cotton muslin. I had been all gung-ho ready to do it out of mesh, and then I've tried it on with the muslin, and you can't really see it here on the camera, but it's still sheer, but you can just barely see the muslin underneath. Whereas like when I pulled this down and showed like a little bit of my arm, it just looked really red, which I know the neckline is also skin color, and I'm redder than the mesh, but I don't know, it just wasn't really looking right. I feel like the muslin is looking better, so I'm gonna get a second opinion or a third opinion or something like that and then decide on it. But yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards muslin now. Also, muslin is soft, it's comfortable, it doesn't stretch, it does a little bit, it doesn't really stretch, so I know how it reacts. It breathes well, I guess mesh does too, but I don't know, I like cotton. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I love though just trying this on. It feels so fancy. I'm doing this myself, so I literally have one hook done in the back, so it's totally pulling me backwards. But I'm just really loving how this looks right now. It's sparkly and pretty, and also I'm watching Frozen 2 because I have to. So yeah, that's update. I'm going to probably be going back and forth between filming on my phone and my camera for this portion of the vlog while I learn my camera. So I do apologize for any weirdness there, but this is where I am and I think I'm liking it. So yeah. I did wind up fixing the seam line before cutting out my sleeve on the actual mesh, and these are the other changes that I made to that sleeve pattern as well, where I increased various points in size. You guys, it's been 2 days since I last checked in with you, and the dress is now wearable. I'm super excited. I have my sleeves on. So I did change a little bit of what I was saying in the last clip, and I will intersperse some clips of me sewing because I didn't always remember to do that, but I did a couple times. But I wanted to walk you through kind of what I did with these sleeves. So there are, I think I figured out there are 10 pieces of fabric per sleeve, which is a lot and it feels a little overkill. But basically what's going on is that this sleeve, which I think I already mentioned, this is 2 layers of silk organza with 1 layer of nylon net, like a crinoline net underneath, not the wide net. And that's giving me kind of this like droopy but full look, which is totally what I was going for, so excellent. And then underneath that, I have hand sewn in the mesh. Now, I think in my last clip, I was talking about being not sure if I was going to do it in muslin or in mesh, and also not sure if I was going to recut my mock-up so that the seam would be under the arm where it's supposed to be. So I did recut it. My seam is underneath this seam. And I also did it out of the mesh. So there's the layer of mesh underneath, and that has been hand sewn in so that I was able to cover up the edges where all of the gathers of the nylon net are, because those are actually super, super sharp. And so I wanted to make sure that that was really well covered, and I really didn't know how to do that other than hand sewing it. So that's what I did. And then the lower sleeve is 6 pieces because I cut it out of the silk, and I was going to do silk lined with muslin, but I cut it out of the silk, and then I realized, oh, I can't just cut this out of the silk satin because the silk satin is not what the rest of the dress looks like, because all of the rest of the dress has the silk organza over the silk satin. So I had to do silk satin with silk organza flat lined together, and then I built the 2 sleeve seams. This is 1 on each side, and had to mess with the mock-up so that I could get a pretty good fit but still get it over my wrist. And then what I actually did, instead of flat lining with the muslin, which is what I would normally do, I actually bag lined it with muslin, and that is so that I could get this point and not have to worry about binding it. So I just sewed them right sides together and then turned the muslin inside the sleeve and then connected them at the top and treated them as one at the top where I attached it to this part of the sleeve. So that is how I made these 10-piece sleeves that took me 2 days, or maybe even a little bit longer. But they're all done now, so that's excellent. Or they're almost done, I guess I should say. Because of this point, I don't want this point just like turning around anywhere. So I will be doing a little finger loop that I can do out of elastic, probably a clear elastic, which I don't have yet. So I'll have to get some of that, but that will just go over my finger here and keep that in place. So that will be later. I'm not worried about that yet. But otherwise, the dress is wearable as is, which is excellent. My next step that I am going to start this evening, so normally, I have to admit, I don't sew bones in my bodices. But because this one is doing this wrinkly business all up in here, I've decided I'm going to sew bones in, and I'm really hoping that that will solve the wrinkle. I think honestly the problem is that it's a little bit too large here. I guess I could just take it in. I don't know. That seems like a lot of work considering the layers. So I don't know. I'm going to see if the bones will help that. But yeah, it is that it's a little too large here. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, it's just a little bit wrinkly in the bodice. And so I'm hoping that putting in some bones will help. I'll probably do 1 or 2 here-ish, maybe here and on the sides. I've already got the one in the center back. I don't know if I'll do a side back bones. But I've already made the casing for that, or at least part of it. I don't have very much because I ran out of twill tape. So I don't know if this will cover me, but I'm going to try the bones and see how it looks with the bones in there. But otherwise, all I have left is rhinestoning and doing the little cape bit. So I am doing a faux watteau type pleat cape. Faux watteau pleat type cape. And that is going to attach at the top of the ivory silk part of the bodice, being the pleats, and then flowing down. And I'm sure I will be rhinestoning that as well, because it wouldn't make sense for me not to. So that's all that I have left to do. I mean, I say all, but it's like 15,000 rhinestones, so who knows how long it'll take. It also, the rhinestones, it's hard to do in here when it's hot, which our temperatures now have gone up to about 75 degrees Fahrenheit for like the foreseeable future, which I know sounds really cool to most of you who live in like Texas and California and places where that it's cool. But I live in Washington, and so 75 degrees is where it starts to be too hot. And I am setting my rhinestones using a griddle, and so that griddle emanates so much heat in this little room that has very little ventilation and no air conditioning. So yeah, trying to do that when it's hot is going to be interesting. So it might very well be that I start another project while I'm doing this, while I'm doing the rhinestones. Otherwise, this project now, you're probably not going to get that many more updates from me because it's almost done. I'll show you some updates as I rhinestone, and I'll put in some little clips and stuff, but I don't know that I'll be doing that much more vlogging for this project because it is basically done. Yay! Figured since I was wearing the dress, I might as well put the wig on too. I'm still not sure that I love the wig, but I'm not sure how better to do it. It's definitely a lot wider than in the original inspiration, but I think I don't know, the width makes it look a little bit more Edwardian, which I don't hate, but I'm just not sure it's right. It's definitely not giving me this vibe, but I'm not sure how better to do this. By the way, I have already released, probably, unless I really hate it, a video that I made with how to style this wig. But again, I'm just not in love with the style for this. I don't know. I think it's also just that this is a really hard color on me. I'm not meant to be a platinum blonde, so maybe that's my problem. I don't know. We'll see what I decide to do. Okay, just a super quick addendum to my last little blip in here that I went ahead and I actually wound up taking in this seam right here. I actually took out up to about 3/4 of an inch out of each seam because it was just, I think that's what was causing so many of the wrinkles. The remaining wrinkles honestly aren't going to be fixed by boning because I think it's that the silk organza might actually be a little bit tighter than the silk satin, which it's like, I mean, my bad, but I'm not going to be able to do anything about that now. And that is going to hopefully be covered and disappear when I cover this whole thing with rhinestones. So basically that means I'm not going to put the boning in after all. That'll save me a lot of trouble, and I guess I wasted that casing, but whatever, I'll use it in a future project. Which means that all I have to do now is a bajillion rhinestones. So I'm super excited about that, and now I get to cover everything with sparkles. Present day Rebecca here. Thank you so much for joining me for this second part of the Elsa vlog. I will have the third and final part of the vlog coming up next week, so please be sure to check back for that, and you will get to see the dress as it finally moves into its finished product. Yay! I know this has been a really, really long saga, and let me tell you, it's been a lot longer for me than it has been for you watching this. But if you did like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon, and if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a video. I do post videos on here twice a week, with my regular sewing vlogs coming out on Tuesday and the special content coming out on Friday, but I do post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to support all the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Ko-fi account down below. Once again, thank you so much for joining me this week. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!